911 location of your emergency.
Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
On a freezing November night in 2022, 4 college students were sleeping peacefully inside their off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho. Just hours earlier, they had been dancing, laughing, sharing fries, and walking home together like it was any other Saturday night. But by sunrise, the house was silent. Too silent. And by noon, that silence would break with a 911 call that would launch one of the most haunting murder investigations in American college history. The suspect? A criminology PhD student who may have been watching them for weeks. The motive? Still unclear. The evidence? Chilling. The aftermath? National fear, campus lockdowns, and families shattered forever. Today, we're not just telling this story. We are going to be breaking it down and rating it on the Murder Severity Index. What is that, you may be wondering? Well, it's 6 categories totaling of 33 points. I have it down in the description if you want to take a peek. Feel free to score along with me because we're going to go over it at the end and compare our thoughts. While you're down there checking out the Murder Severity Index, or the MSI, why don't you check and see if you are subscribed to the channel? It really does help out. Maybe like, comment, share it with a friend, anything of that nature. Now, this is the case of Bryan Kohberger and the Idaho Four. Let's start with the most important part. Remembering the victims and who they were. Kaylee Goncalves was 21 years old. She was born in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, the third of 5 kids in a big, loving family, and she grew up in Rathdrum, in the kind of home filled with laughter, dogs, and inside jokes only siblings understand. Kaylee was magnetic. People were naturally drawn to her. She had a bright, goofy laugh and a fierce loyalty to those she loved. She was close to her parents, deeply protective of her younger siblings, and unapologetically ambitious. She had just finished her degree in general studies at the University of Idaho, graduating early, and had landed a job in Texas. She was moving there soon. A new chapter. But before she left, she had to spend some time with her best friend. Her best friend was Madison Mogen, or Maddie, as her friends called her. She was also 21, and Maddie and Kaylee were lifelong friends. They met in the 6th grade, and from that moment on, they were inseparable. Her family said it best. Kaylee and Maddie were each other's soulmates. Maddie was born and raised in Coeur d'Alene, a tight-knit community where everyone knew her as kind, artistic, and driven. She had this peaceful confidence about her, someone who could walk into a room and instantly make everyone feel at ease. She was majoring in marketing and loved music, fashion, and photography. She wasn't loud, but when she spoke, people listened. And she loved deeply. Her friends, her family, Kaylee. That night, they were out together because that's how it's always been. Xana Kernodle was only 20 years old. She was born in Arizona, but grew up in Post Falls, Idaho, and was known by everyone who met her as full of fire. She was sharp, witty, and had the boldness that made her unforgettable. Her friends say she had the rare ability to call you out and lift you up in the same breath. She was the kind of girl who would defend you without hesitation and then tease you over dinner about your terrible taste in TV shows. She was studying marketing and juggling a busy life, school, work, and her relationship with Ethan Chapin. The two had been dating for nearly a year. That night, they spent the evening together, just relaxing, watching a movie, ordering DoorDash. Xana was planning for her future. Not just school and work, but life. She had so much to look forward to. Ethan was also 20, from Mount Vernon, Washington. He was one of 3 triplets. He and his siblings all enrolled at the University of Idaho. They even lived on the same campus. Ethan stood out not just for his height, he was tall, but also for his kindness. He was the guy that would help you move a couch, the guy that would stay late after practice to help clean up, the guy who would make you laugh even if your entire day was going wrong. He was majoring in recreation, sport, and tourism management. And he was a proud member of the Sigma Chi fraternity. He loved outdoors, he loved people, he adored Xana. That night, he stayed with her, something he did often. Just a quiet night in together, one of hundreds. One that should have ended with sleepy good nights and tomorrow's plans. They were students, best friends, daughters and sons, young adults filled with optimism, excitement, and on the verge of their next big adventure. And just in a few hours, everything would change. It was now Saturday, November 12th, 2022. It was a typical weekend night in the small college town, cold, quiet, and about to be shattered. 5 p.m., early evening, Ethan and Xana spent the early part of the evening at a party hosted by Ethan's fraternity, Sigma Chi. It was just across the street from the house Xana shared with 4 other roommates. They left around 9 p.m., walked back to Xana's house, and ordered some DoorDash. There were no arguments, no fights, just a normal, cozy night in. 10 p.m. Meanwhile, Kaylee and Maddie had gone out downtown, just the 2 of them, to the Corner Club, a popular college bar on Main Street. They were caught on security footage, smiling, laughing, arms around each other like best friends always are. Just before 2 a.m., they stopped by a late-night food truck for mac and cheese. There's a video of that too, and nothing seems out of the ordinary.
I would like the carbonara.
They got home, arriving back at the house. It was 1:56 a.m. The girls brushed their teeth, put comfy clothes on, and got cozy in Maddie's bed after a long, fun, and memorable night together. The house at 1122 King Road, it was a 3-story house. 6 students lived there, all University of Idaho students, but that night, only 5 were home. 1 was on the ground floor. Xana and Ethan and another were on the second. Kaylee and Maddie were up in Maddie's room on the top floor. It was quiet. Everyone was in bed by 4 a.m. And then it happened. Sometime between 4 and 4:25 a.m., someone entered the home through a sliding glass door, most likely on the second floor, the kitchen. It is believed that Xana was awake at this time. Records show that she ordered DoorDash again, and it arrived at about 4 a.m. Then she took the food back into her room, cozied up next to Ethan, and scrolled TikTok while enjoying whatever she had just ordered. This was clocked at 4:12 a.m. Now, along with these 4 people that I've been talking about, there were 2 other crucial people in the house at the time: Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk. Dylan's room was also on the 2nd floor, and Brittany was asleep downstairs. At some point, Dylan was woken up by a noise coming from the 3rd floor. At first, she thought it was Kaylee and her pet dog. That is, until she heard one of the girls saying something to the effect of,
"There's someone here."
She's pretty sure it was Kaylee who said this, but investigators believe it was actually Xana who said it. Dylan opened her door enough to peer through the crack. She saw nothing. That's when Dylan heard crying coming from Xana's room. She opened the door again and heard an unfamiliar man's voice saying,
"It's okay. I'm going to help you."
Security camera near the house actually picked up sounds of whimpering, a loud thud, and a dog barking around 4:17 a.m. Dylan opened the door a 3rd time. And can I just say how brave she is for, confronting all this? Well, that's when she caught a glimpse of him. He was head to toe in black clothing, and a mask covered his mouth and nose. He was walking straight towards her. Investigators believe Xana and Ethan on the 2nd floor were killed first in her bedroom. Ethan may have fought back. His wounds were mostly defensive. Upstairs, Kaylee and Maddie were found in the same bed, in Maddie's room on the 3rd floor. There were no signs of a struggle, suggesting they were asleep when the killer entered. But what was most shocking was the brutality. Multiple wounds each. No mercy. After this, when Dylan was peeking through her door for a 3rd time, the man who she didn't recognize walks past her, and he exits through the sliding glass door in the kitchen, the same one that he had come in through. Dylan was frozen with shock at this point, not able to quite comprehend what had just happened. Was there really a dark figure that had broken into their house? Or was she dreaming? Or was it just because she had had some drinks the night before? She decided there was no way that it was really happening. She even told detectives later that she didn't call 911 immediately after seeing the masked man because she was intoxicated and didn't want to believe what was going on. Well, finally, at some point, Dylan gathers herself. She opens her door. Nothing out of the ordinary. She steps out, looks around, no one's there. She looks to Xana's bedroom and she sees Xana laying on the floor and just assumes that she too probably had some drinks last night and has passed out just right there on her bedroom floor. So Dylan rushes down the stairs, gets into Bethany's room, shuts the door and locks it, and then they get cozy together in Bethany's bed, and that's when they start making phone calls and trying to get a hold of the other roommates in the house. For the next several hours, the girls stayed in Bethany's room, trying to contact the others and growing more uneasy as time ticked. And they continued to hear nothing in response. Later that morning, like 11-ish, Dylan was freaked out and called the other housemates, the one who weren't home that night, and asked them if they could come over and see if anything weird was happening. Soon after arriving, one of the housemates went to the second floor where he found Xana and Ethan. He did the right thing here. He did not want to go any further. He turns around and instructs everybody to leave the house right now. They all went to the driveway, and now at 11:58, Bethany called 911 requesting aid for an unconscious person.
11:55 a.m. 42 seconds, November 13, 2022.
911 location of your emergency.
Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the White, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah.
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, but we gotta go check. But we have to. Did you pass out? What's wrong? She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20 here.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Okay, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
Bethany, Dylan needs you to talk to them, okay? I can't talk to them. They need you to talk to them.
Hello?
Okay. I've already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Say that again? There's a police here right now.
Okay. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
We don't have it. I can see it. Do you have a defibrillator? Yes, we have one.
So are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since he's there with you and can help you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
11:59 a.m. 49 second, November 13, 2022.
First responders arrived immediately. Remember, this is a small town. Nothing crazy happens here. And upon arriving in the early afternoon, all 4 victims were pronounced dead at the scene. Xana and Ethan were discovered in the second floor bedroom. Xana was lying on the floor and Ethan in the bed. Kaylee and Maddie were found in Maddie's bed upstairs on the 3rd floor. All 4 had been violently stabbed to death. None of them had been gagged or restrained. None of them had been essayed. Nothing had been stolen that they could see. But Kaylee had more than 20 wounds. Just her. And in addition to that, she had injuries such as blunt force trauma and asphyxiation. So she was literally alive and got hit and on her own blood, basically. Xana had over 50 wounds. And many of hers, as well as Ethan's, were defensive, meaning that they both fought back. Upon searching the residence further, they did find Kaylee's dog, alive, completely unharmed, and hiding on the 3rd floor. When news of the murders hit the morning of November 13th, shock turned into fear in a matter of hours. Police hadn't named a suspect, they hadn't released a motive, and yet they told the public that there was no threat. For a town of roughly 25,000 people, mostly college students and families, this didn't sit well. That night, the University of Idaho canceled all classes for the following day, and they announced a candlelight vigil for November 16th to honor the victims. But fear had already taken root, and it was growing fast. 3 days go by. Now the narrative changes. Moscow Police Chief James Fry stood in front of reporters and said,
"We cannot say that there is no threat to the community."
This was enough to cause mass exodus. Fall break wasn't supposed to begin until the 18th, but students packed up their things early. Professors canceled their lectures. Dorms emptied out, and a once bustling college town went quiet. The vigil was eventually moved inside to the Kibbe Dome, and it was postponed to November 30th due to weather. By then, Moscow felt like a ghost town, a place frozen in uncertainty. And something darker was beginning to grow online. With police holding back most of the case details, people turned to TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, and suddenly everybody became an expert. Internet sleuths, self-proclaimed psychics, true crime bloggers, all pointing fingers and posting theories. Rumors spread like wildfire. One of the surviving roommates was accused of being involved. A professor was falsely linked to the killer. Even random students who had no connection to the case were being dragged through the mud.
That's sick. That's my favorite follow. That's Stoic Instagram.
Oh, Stoic is great.
Yeah.
Ryan Holiday's great, too.
Oh, yeah, Ryan Holiday, yeah. He looks like the guy that killed 4 college students in Idaho.
He does.
That's who I thought it was. I was like, oh, the Stoic is a mass
He's out. He's out. He's writing books about just being cool about everything. But
did you hear that, by the way, with Idaho? They're thinking about bringing back the firing squad if he gets convicted.
Oh, my.
It got so out of control that the Moscow Police Department had to release this statement. There is speculation without factual backing, stoking community fears, and spreading false facts. Captain Roger Lanier added that tracking down and debunking these rumors was taking away time from actually solving the real case. And they made it clear anyone harassing people tied to the case could face charges. Meanwhile, the victims' families were growing frustrated. Kaylee's father, as well as Ethan's father, both spoke out, saying police weren't telling them much more than they were telling the public. They felt like they were being left in the dark. So, to the outside world, it looked like this. 4 college students have been murdered. No suspect. No murder weapon, no motive. And a growing sense that whoever did this is still out there. For the longest time, it felt like the investigation was stuck. And yet, behind the scenes, investigators were quietly assembling one of the most complex digital and forensics case this small town of Moscow had ever seen. From the beginning, detectives focused on 2 things. A white Hyundai Elantra speeding away from the scene of the crime right after 4 a.m. And a single male DNA sample found on a knife sheath left behind on one of the victims' beds. The knife sheath wasn't just a breakthrough for what it was, but what it represented. The killer had made a mistake. This was a detail the killer hadn't meant to leave behind. Meanwhile, security footage and cell tower pings were being pulled from every camera within miles of the house. Police had issued a BOLO, a be on the lookout, for a white 2011 to 2013-ish Hyundai Elantra. In total, there were over 22,000 vehicles that matched that description. One of them belonged to a 28-year-old PhD student at Washington State University, just 10 miles away in Pullman. His name? Brian Kohberger. He drove a 2015 Hyundai Elantra, and when investigators looked deeper, things started to line up. Phone records show that Kohberger's cell phone had pinged near the King Road house at least 12 times in the months leading up to the murders. And they were always very late at night or early in the morning. One of those pings happened just hours after the near a rural road south of Moscow, as if he were trying to dispense of something. And then came the final nail: DNA.
Bingo. Dino DNA.
Investigators had secretly collected trash from the Kohberger family home back in Pennsylvania, where Brian had traveled to during winter break. DNA from his father was taken from a piece of garbage and was compared to the sample on the knife sheath. And they found enough similarities with it to conclude that father's DNA, whoever did this, it was a child. On December 30th, 2022, in the early hours of the morning, police swarmed the Kohberger family home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. He was taken into custody without incident. He had driven across the country with his father in the car just days after he had committed a murder. And to make things better, police had stopped them and pulled them over twice in Indiana for traffic violations, but nobody knew who he was then.
Recording.
Hello. How you doing? How y'all doing today? Good, good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man. He was right up on the back end of that van. I pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay. Cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU, and we're standing.
What's WSU?
Yeah, university basically. We're listening to this incident that was occurred with the shooting incident. That is SWAT team area.
So I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University?
Yeah.
And you're going where?
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
We're driving. Well, almost a day.
Okay. And what did you say about some SWAT team thing?
Yeah, there was a mass shooting and everything.
Where? Interesting.
Well, it's horrifying because it's the universe.
Mm-hmm. So y'all work at the university there? Or?
Actually, we work there.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that incident just yesterday, or?
This happened about an hour and a half ago. It's still wrapping up. I'm not sure there's two shootings because they did shoot somebody.
Let's see.
And then you don't know about that actually. They were there for a shooting out of the window or something.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. So do me a favor, don't follow too close, okay? All right. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Now, back in Idaho, the victims' families and everybody, honestly, they finally had a name. But the questions were far from over. Who was Brian Kohberger? Why these 4 students? And what drove him to do it? Brian Christopher Kohberger was born on November 21st, 1994 in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, a small wooded town near the Pocono Mountains. On the surface, he lived an ordinary suburban life. He had 2 sisters, Amanda and Melissa, a mom who worked in education, a dad who worked maintenance jobs. They were known in their neighborhood. Quiet, private, normal. But if you talk to the people who knew Brian when he was growing up, the word normal doesn't always come to mind. Brian was intelligent, no question. But he wasn't exactly socially fluent. Former classmates described him as odd, aloof, and intensely analytical. He was the kind of kid who would stare a little too long, ask questions that didn't quite fit with the conversation, and then withdraw into himself completely. In high school, his weight fluctuated dramatically. At one point, he lost over 100 pounds, some saying in a matter of months. He told friends it was a personal health decision. Others say it was something darker, a total obsession with control. Brian's interest in criminology started young, but it wasn't just about law enforcement. It was about understanding the criminal mind. He wanted to know why people commit these violent crimes, what triggered them to finally cross the line, from thinking about it to actually doing it. After high school, he earned an associate's degree in psychology, then transferred to DeSales University to finish his undergrad, and later his master's in criminal justice. Now, during this time, he worked closely with Dr. Catherine Ramsland. She is a well-known expert on serial killers who had personally written the biography of Dennis Rodder, the BTK killer. Rodder. Let me know if you want me to do a deep dive on him and we can rate him on the Murder Severity Index as well. So Brian wasn't just learning about killers from reading about them. He was learning about them from people who had actually studied them, actually talked to them. For his master's thesis, Brian posted an odd question to Reddit. He was asking convicted criminals to describe their thoughts, feelings, and emotions they had while actually committing the crime. He wanted to know how they chose their victims, how they felt in the moment, and how they planned their escape. It was framed as academic research, but later on, it definitely sent up red flags. Was this for science or something a little more personal? In the summer of 2022, Brian Kohberger moved across the country to start a PhD in criminology at Washington State University. This is in Pullman, just 10 miles away from Moscow, Idaho, where University of Idaho is. So, matter of minutes. Now, he was a first-year teaching assistant and doctoral student. Some students described him as harsh, condescending, and socially awkward. He corrected people often and seemed detached. Others said he was professional, even kind. But there was always a strangeness about him. He also reportedly struggled to connect with women. One student said he made them feel uncomfortable. Another claimed he followed her to her car. And yet nothing concrete ever stuck. Phone records would later show he was near the house at least a dozen times in the weeks leading up to the case. So who is Brian Kohberger? A highly intelligent criminal student. A loner with an obsessive interest in violent crime. A man who studied the very system used to catch people like him and then used it to kill. After his arrest on the 30th of December 2022, Brian was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. He was held without bond and extradited from Pennsylvania back to Idaho just days later. He made his first court appearance in Moscow on January 5th, 2023, where his charges were formally read.
Oh, we took care of it. Yep. You good? Okay. All right.
1 week later, he was back in court for a brief status hearing. Then, in May 2023, a grand jury indicted him on all 5 charges. During the arraignment, he refused to enter a plea. Honestly, I watched this one go along and saw the clips of it and a couple of them live. He did as little talking as possible, and it just infuriates me. So, because he didn't say anything, the judge was required to enter a plea of not guilty for him.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
Go.
But the prosecution made their intentions very clear. They were going for the death penalty. Somewhere between his arrest and his final court appearance where he gets convicted, Idaho brings back the firing squad for the death penalty. I feel like they did that just for him. But yeah. As the months wore on, Kohberger's defense fought over forensic evidence, especially the genetic genealogy that first linked him to the case. Meanwhile, the trial was moved to Boise after the judge approved a change of venue, citing overwhelming media attention. And then, a stunning turn. On June 30th, 2025, yes, just not too long ago from when I'm posting this and recording this, Brian Kohberger pled guilty to all of the charges in exchange for the death penalty being taken off the table.
For of Madison Mogen, how do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
For the murder of Kaylee Goncalves, how do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
For the murder of Xana Kernodle, a human being, how do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
For the murder of Ethan Chapin, a human being, how do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
This court cannot require the prosecutor to seek the death penalty.
But this also means that he's given up his rights to appeal the case, ever. On July 23rd, he was officially sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus an additional 10 years for the felony burglary. I do want to also say I drove through this town maybe like 3 to 6 months ago, and they have since completely demolished the house. So now we know what happened, we know who did it, and we know how the justice system responded. But the question still lingers. Just how severe was this crime? Well, let's break it down using the Murder Severity Index. Remember, I have it down in the description box there, so if you want to, I will make this into like a printable PDF or something for you. That way we can just go along and score it, and then I can go over it with you and we can compare. Yes. I'm referring to my notes here so I don't forget or mess it up. So, category 1 is the intent and planning. I will explain this since this is our first time going through it. So, side number 1 is completely impulsive, unstable, delusional, all the way up to 5 points, which is highly premeditated, strategic, remorseless, sociopath level planning, which obviously that's where Bryan Kohberger sits on this scale, because he didn't just snap. This was calculated. He stalked the victims for weeks. Phone records placed him near the house multiple times before the murders. Sometimes in the middle of the night. He studied criminology. He knew how to avoid detection, or so he thought. This was not impulsive. This was high-level premeditation. So, ding, 5 points. Now, category 2 is the victim count. I have 1 point for 1 victim, 2 for 2 victims, 3 to 4 victims is 3 points, 5 to 9 is 4 points, and then anything 10 or over is going to be 5 points. So because there were 4 lives taken that night, Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan, each one had a future, each one had a story, and all of them were gone in a matter of minutes. On the scale, that puts them at 3 points for 3 to 4 victims, which ranks this case 3 out of 5, not the highest, but still an unthinkable loss. So we are now at 8 points. Category 3 is the betrayal of trust. So this one is 8 levels. I will pop them up on the screen for a minute so you can see, one being a stranger all the way up to very, very close relationships. And unlike many cases, Kohberger had no personal connection to any of the victims. He wasn't a friend, he wasn't a coworker, he didn't even go to the same college. That makes this all the more terrifying, but in terms of betrayal of trust, he's gonna get 1 point. So we are now at 9 points. Category 4 is the brutality and suffering. So it kind of goes 2 ways here, like quick, painless. So not only just time, but like how brutal. Quick and painless is on this side. Brutal or or long-lasting will be on this side, 5. I gave him a 5 because while the victims didn't suffer for days or hours, each one of them had been multiple times. And the coroner said that they had defensive wounds, which means they were awake. There was blood everywhere. It wasn't clean, it wasn't painless, it was just brutal violence, and the scene reflected that. So, maximum 5 points. Category 5 is cover-up and evasion. So, did they confess right away, or do absolutely nothing to conceal it, or did they hide it for a long time, even up to like cold case or still unsolved? Koberger wore gloves. He took his phone offline. He tried to hide his tracks. He left almost no DNA, except for the knife sheath, the one critical piece that led to his arrest. He wasn't reckless, but he wasn't perfect either, so moderate attempt at a cover-up, 3 out of 5 points. So, last, as category 6, the public impact. Was this something quiet no one has heard about, or did it get worldwide news? This case shocked the entire country. 4 college students were murdered in their home. 4 weeks, there was no answers from anybody. The entire town of Moscow went into lockdown. I know some of the schools around them were scared and they went into lockdown. And the internet exploded with rumors and accusations, psychics, and just pure chaos. This truly did become a true crime firestorm of international levels, so 5 out of 5 points. Ding. So the final score for Bryan Kohberger and the Idaho Four is a 22 out of 33. Not the highest score, but definitely up near the top. This wasn't a case of passion or panic. It was planned, it was brutal, it was devastating, and it was committed by somebody who understood the system and tried to beat it, but in the end, couldn't. What do you think about this new format? Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what you scored it, if it's different, or if you have a case you want me to score on the MSI, please drop a comment, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. Thank you guys for joining me again, and as always, stay safe out there, Troop TT.